World IBD Day takes place every year on the 19th of May to unite people worldwide in the fight against Crohn's and colitis, also known as inflammatory bowel disease or IBD. There are 10 million people worldwide who have been diagnosed and are living with inflammatory bowel conditions. So this year, Hollister and Dansac have brought together Sue Lennon, nurse, therapist, educator and coach, in conversation with Lauren Henderson to raise awareness about these conditions.
Hi, I'm Sue Lennon and I'm here with Lauren Henderson to talk about her life with IBD and how she makes IBD work. But I suspect it's probably easier if Lauren introduces herself. So Lauren, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Lauren and I'm a mum of 2 children. I'm a teacher. I also do some voluntary charity work and I have a stoma due to IBD.
Okay, so what were your early symptoms with your IBD?
It was around 2008, just before Christmas, and I was going to the toilet, well, quite a lot, and I'm sure lots of people are emphatically nodding as they're listening to this. And I went to the doctors and they thought I had food poisoning. I blamed an Indian restaurant that's around the corner from my house. But unfortunately, the inverted commas, food poisoning didn't go away. Eventually I had to have tests, and it wasn't until the following Easter that I got diagnosed through a colonoscopy that I had Crohn's colitis. It wasn't ever definite which one it was. Okay,
so how old were you then?
I was around 20 and I was in my 3rd year at university, so I was quite young. And yeah, so I was just in a lot of pain and then didn't quite understand why.
Okay, so were you away at university, away from home?
No, I say I wasn't away from home. I moved out. I'm a bit of an independent woman and wanted to move out. I moved out when I was 18 to start uni, but I went and rented a house and worked part-time, possibly while I got ill. So I went to university locally. I say locally, it was about a 40-minute drive, and stayed at home, and that was due to the fact that I've got horses, and I wanted to stay with them at home and ensure that I was still do my hobby really, rather than spending loads of money on taking them away. But yeah, I had my own place, so I wasn't with my parents, otherwise I would have killed them.
Well, that was where I was going with it really, because I was thinking, you know, if you were really far away from home and there was nobody there to support you at this time when you were really quite unwell for a protracted amount of time, who was around for you when you were kind of going through the investigation stage of your IBD?
Weirdly, I just recently split up with my boyfriend, and we've been together for about 2 years. We were on and off, and I was seeing a different chap. Sounds awful, doesn't it? And the weekend that I got diagnosed, the Friday was Easter. It was Easter weekend, and he was with me. But he was really not very supportive at all. And I don't think he liked the fact that I was poorly. He suffered chronic back pain. I don't think he liked the fact that I was poorly. He took me to hospital for the colonoscopy, dragged me back out afterwards. I was an absolute mess. I was just like, someone's just put a camera where I really didn't want it. I've been sedated, and whilst I was sedated coming around, someone told me that I got Crohn's colitis. I started this medication that really threw me about, and he just wasn't supportive at all. Needless to say, that relationship didn't last very long.
I can imagine. And so the early stages of the management of your disease, you know, medication and I imagine some steroid.
Yeah, so steroids I was on, and I'd gone from taking no tablets at all, even for a minor headache. I was one of those people that's like, no, I'm not taking paracetamol, it'll be fine, to then taking 20 tablets a day, and they included steroids and anti-inflammatories. I also had to take an enema once a night. The doctor said to me, my consultant said, you need to make sure that you keep it in for at least 5 minutes. Yeah, it was more like 5 seconds from the bathroom floor to the toilet that it lasted. It was impossible to keep it in. It's so much pain, and not a nice thing to have to do. I mean, at any age, let alone as a young woman, I just felt so horrendously embarrassed that I was having to do that. And yeah, and the steroids as well, they had a negative impact on me as an allergic reaction. But I had to call A&E because I stopped breathing. I couldn't breathe unless I was like crouched over. It was really, really bad. But yeah, eventually I got used to the steroids, and as probably lots of people know, it makes you a bit moody. It makes you tired. It makes you hungry, and it makes you have a bigger face than normal. So I had a nice large moon face that I didn't have any idea why I was getting this round face, but it just changed the way I looked. And I think really that was one of the first chips off my confidence, that I didn't look like me anymore.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's so much going on at that time, isn't there? I think of myself as a 19 or 20-year-old young woman, and the thought of having invasive tests in my bottom, just, it really, I just feel for you so much. But how did you cope in particular with the moon face? I mean, I know that it is common with steroids, but you don't commonly see people in the street. None of your friends are like that. So how did you cope with that?
It was the only thing really that sort of kept my symptoms, I want to say control, but people with IBD will know that it's not, it's an element of control. But I remember going out on the pull for my might have been my 24th birthday, or I can't remember, it might have been a bit earlier than that, I can't remember. And we went out and we dressed up as Fame characters. So I had that, the leg warmers on. I thought I looked really hot. Like, I was like, yeah, rocking this down. I didn't really realise that my face had changed so much. And I was chatting up this guy. He was a fireman, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And he was standing on Birmingham Broad Street, and I really thought I was in with a chance until I looked at the photos afterwards, and I looked at myself and I thought, when did my face become so red and so wide and so puffy? And that's when I asked a nurse, and I said, is this a symptom? And she said it's a side effect of the steroids. So it took me a long time to realise why. And just looked like as Kieran calls it, my husband, he calls it, I look like my fat sister. But I wasn't fat, it was just my face, Never mind.
Yeah. So was there anything else going on in your life at that time? I mean, you had plenty going on at that time. You were at uni, you had your animals, you were a young woman looking for a partner, presumably.
Yeah, so I have a real bad case of not being able to let go, and I've been on and off with, I was on with a guy for 2 years. He was lovely, and we got on really well. We split up. Just one of those things when you're younger, and I don't know, I just couldn't quite let it go, and we were sort of on and off for about a year, which resulted in me becoming pregnant a week before I started my teacher training course. So yes, I finished my degree, go me, missed loads of lectures, but managed to come away with a 2-1. I was really proud. Back to start my teacher training course, and then a week before I started, I found out I was pregnant. So I was pregnant, alone, and pooing myself. It's a great time.
So you're a teacher now?
Yes.
That means that you must have gone through not just teacher training, but teaching placements with IBD. How did that?
Yeah, so I mean, at the time, showing my age now, when I did my teacher training 10 years ago, it was called a graduate teacher program that I did. So it was literally on the job, and it's paid as well. So I had a salary while I was on it. It was a small salary, but it was better than actually doing a PGC, which is most commonly what people do. I think they do things like skip programs now, and Teachers Direct, I think, are quite similar. So I actually did my course on the job. So from day one, I was in the classroom. I was teaching from day one. I was pregnant, and I was going to the toilet an awful lot, and also I was trying to get my head around my new career, So it was tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what about being able to speak to the employers or the people at the school about what was going on for you? I mean, not just with your pregnancy, but with your bowel.
They were really good. They allowed me to do the course within 2/3 of the time, as long as I completed all of the assignments, which I did. I just need to be driven, which, it's not an issue. Being driven is something that I am. I'd more call it stubborn. But they were really understanding about the pregnancy, especially under the circumstances that I was on my own. I say I was on my own. It wasn't a simple case of My ex decided not to be around. There was obviously lots of emotional things going on outside of work and outside of my course that were causing great upset, which didn't help my illness. We had this thing where if I was teaching, it wasn't so bad when I was training because there was always another teacher in the room. But after that, there was always this thing where I said to the teacher next door, I need to go and get some paper, which was signal for, I'm about to poo myself, I need to go, like now, like right now. So they were really understanding. And there was only really one time that I remember that the head of faculty was in my classroom when I got back from the toilet once, and she was fuming with me that I'd left the class, and she humiliated me in front of the whole class. But that's the only time that I can ever remember that happening. Everybody else was supportive. I had my line manager at the time. I had to ring her from the toilets and say, there's a class on their own. I've had an accident. I have no clothes on from my waist down. I'm in the female toilets. Can you please bring in my emergency clothes from the staff room? I can talk like that now, Sue, but that's not quite how the message came across as I was sobbing in the toilet and she came to rescue me.
Yeah, I'm sure. So having to be that open with your colleagues, I mean, it's very exposing, isn't it? And it sounds like you had fantastic support. But what was the feeling with the students? Did you get any kind of feedback? They didn't
know, and I was very secretive about my illness, and I felt like I was the only person in the whole world that was going through what I was going through. I remember running down a corridor once, kids always chase me, going like, Miss, where you going? I'm like, leave me alone. But I remember getting to the staff toilet and there was another member of staff about to go into the staff room opposite, and she noticed I'd got a dress on. Really stupid mistake to make when you have accidents daily with IBD, but I'd had an accident before I got to the toilet, which was sod's law and how it goes. But she looked at me, realised what had happened, and thank goodness she just assessed the situation of just leave her alone, and she went into the staff room and let me be. But students didn't know about it at all. I'm very open about it now. I'll talk to students all day long about what it was like to have IBD now, but at the time when it's happening to you, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't tell anybody.
And it's teenagers you teach, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you have an accident in front of a 14 or 15-year-old, that you gave attention to last week, I can't imagine that going down quite so well.
No, I would be the same as you. So after you've had an incident like that, Lauren, was there anything that you did differently? I know that you kept an emergency bag at school, but like you said about wearing a dress, did you respond differently the next day?
It's funny because I don't think I ever really learnt my lesson with dresses. There was 2 occasions that I had. No, was it 3? It might have been more, but there's 2 in my mind that really stand out. Me having accidents with dresses, and one was standing outside a classroom. I'd sort of exited the classroom needing to go, but managed to only get outside the classroom. And I was wearing I don't even know what dress I was wearing. I was wearing a lovely dress and had an accident outside the classroom and wearing only a dress and a cardigan, and thought, how the hell do I sort this out? I got this lovely new bright orange cardigan and sorted myself out with that, and then pegged it to the toilets, leaving a class on their own, sorted myself out, cleaned myself up. A teacher came in and she made a comment on the smell in there, and I had to sort of go, oh yeah. And inside I was like dying because I knew that obviously it was me. Went back to the classroom and made up some horrendous lie that the reason that I'd left the classroom, there was a rogue dog running around the school, and how dare it had pooed outside the classroom, which they believed, thank goodness. But yeah, eventually I learnt my lesson with the dress situation, and trousers were a goer, and having spare clothes, baby wipes, and you just know that the day that you are really prepared, you won't have an accident. The day that you forget it, which has happened on numerous occasions, the day that you don't take that emergency kit, or that the spare trousers that you've already used in your car, you've not replaced, you have an accident.
Yeah. What about the mental, the emotional context of all of this? I think right from the moment of starting with symptoms, the uncertainty and the stress and the having to plan and having to think about what you wear and where you keep things, it's just a massive emotional burden. And I'm curious about the kind of mental health support during IBD, in the early days of IBD. Is that something that's recognized?
It may be different now, but for me, I feel that, I mean, I look at the support that is out there now for people with IBD, and maybe it's because I'm in the community and I can see that. I didn't really have much support. There was a fantastic charity at the time. It's now called Crohn's Colitis UK. I know you've been talking to Victoria today. At the time, it was called the NACC at the time, and I used to go on the forum on there and talk to people online. That was helpful. But as far as any medical professionals that were considered, you know, no one helped me. I mean, I was most likely depressed. I mean, who wouldn't be? But I didn't think to go to the doctor at that point to say I'm feeling really down. But on top of that, I also had Teddy, my little boy. He was born during my illness. He was early due to the fact that he stopped growing, probably because I was so poorly. That was an emotional roller coaster, and the fact that mentally I was going to work and trying to go to work, come home, deal with the horses and deal with Teddy. You know, and I remember just stirring a tin of beans just to prepare his dinner, and just propping myself up on the side and just sobbing, because it was just so hard. I was exhausted and I was done.
Yeah, sure. Do you think it's something that's recognised now, or do you think it's something that you access more post-stoma surgery maybe, or is more available more post-stoma surgery?
I feel there's more support post-stoma surgery, but then that may be because I had more support post-stoma surgery, and I think it might be because I am the support now from that perspective. But I think that support sometimes needs to be found, and I think people need to dig a little bit to find that support and actually ask for help. A lot of the time when I speak to people haven't asked for the help. They've sort of hidden themselves away and don't ask. But yeah, I just think that now there seems to be a lot more support, but people do need to ask for support and need to share what's going on, and they need to be honest, because at the end of the day, people don't see it. People don't see, because if you'd have looked at me 10 years ago when I was poorly, other than having a slightly larger face, you wouldn't have known that I didn't look any different to that. And I would have looked like Lauren. I would have sounded like Lauren. I would have spoken to you like I am now, and no one would have known. And I think that is the problem, is that it's that invisibility that we are under as IBD sufferers, that we don't have that recognition that you know that we are actually ill. You know, it's just that's the problem. People don't see that we're actually ill.
Yeah,
I think that's huge.
Yeah, I do too. So some years in, was it about 5 years in, you went down the ostomy route?
Yeah, it was just over 4 years. On the day that Kieran proposed to me, was the day that I also found out that my surgery was going to get booked.
Okay. And how collaborative were you about that? Was it something that you were involved in that decision, or was it was told it's time?
I think I knew it was coming, and I think you sort of ticked down the list, and I'm not, to not sound awful, I'm not stupid. I could see what was coming, and I could see that the list was going down, and I say to my consultant, does this mean if this doesn't work, then I've got this, then I've got surgery, and if this doesn't work now, does that mean that surgery's next? And he tried to tell me that there wasn't many people that had IBD that had surgery, which I don't know. I don't know what the case is with that, but obviously I wasn't one of those people that avoided surgery. I had nightmares about it. I used to wake up screaming and sweating, thinking that someone was operating on me. Really against it, really, really not happy about it. But I think once I'd had that phone call, I think I was resigned to the fact that maybe this might be the thing that makes me better. Okay.
So what about, what did you know about surgery? Had you done the research already? Did you have misconceptions or anything that was really, really frightening you that actually now, on reflection, you think that wasn't really real?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's really important, because I speak to so many people that say to me, I'm not having surgery. I've had people to the extreme say to me, I'd rather die before having surgery, and it just breaks my heart, because it's just, there's so many misconceptions around having a stoma. And as you've already identified, Sue, that when I had IBD, or when I was suffering the symptoms of IBD, I was having to think about what I was wearing, and the fact that I couldn't go swimming, and I couldn't go out, and I couldn't drink, and I couldn't go out with friends, and all the things that you seem to worry about having a stoma. Those are all the things that are already controlling my life that I couldn't do because I was incontinent. So the things that I worried about were those things. So could I go swimming? Could I wear specific clothes? So I went and bought a load of different clothes, which I really didn't need. And you find what's comfortable for you. Like for me, I prefer to wear high-waisted underwear and high-waisted clothes. That's not to say that I don't wear low-waisted, and some of that as well is that I've had a C-section as well, so I don't like things sitting on my scar, and also bending over, remember that just as a woman, I don't really like my bum hanging out when I bend over. So there's lots of reasons why I wear high-waisted things. My stoma is just one of them. I had misconceptions about intimacy, and I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to be intimate with who was then my fiance. He's now my husband. And I thought that the bag was going to hang off my stoma. I didn't know how it was going to attach. I didn't know it's as simple as that it's stuck on my skin. I didn't know that. I thought it was just going to hang off, see through and smell.
Yeah, okay. So did you have any specific difficulties in the early days, sort of post-surgery?
I find it quite difficult to accept that as an ileostomer, so someone that was having sort of a trickle of feces come out, and it was sort of like a porridge consistency rather than a solid feces. That it wasn't just every couple of hours I would have a poo and that would be it. It was sort of drip, 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 and then of course when it gets full you empty it, and that's why people with ileostomies have a drainable pouch. And I found that quite difficult in the fact that when I was emptying my bag, I'd then see that there was still residue poo left in my bag, which is normal, right? I mean, surely you can't get rid of all of it. So I mean, what I used to do was the little cups that they give you to put your tablets in the hospital, I would then fill up with soapy water in a line, all the ones that I'd gathered over the week of being in hospital, and I would stand over the toilet, swish my bag out, make sure it was completely clean, empty it down the toilet, and then go back to my bed. And I remember there was an old lady in the bed next to me, and I'd stop and have a chat with her, and I'd hear an almighty trump. And trust me, ileostomies, stomas are really loud to begin with. Some people continue to have loud ones, some people don't, but mine was really loud to begin with, and it made this almighty trumping sound, and it filled back up, and I was like, I've just cleaned it, what was the point? So I think it was I had to get used to having that feeling of knowing that my bag was never completely clean inside. But the way I see it is one is that my bag is opaque, I can't see anything of my bag. And secondly, I thought, well, I've had my rectum and my large bowel removed. As a normal person, people would have a poo or go to the toilet and then have residue poo left in their rectum. And it's just that my rectum has now been relocated and it's now my bag. So that's the way I dealt with it. And I think that's a really positive way of dealing with it, because at the end of the day, just how normal people go about it, it's got to gather somewhere, and that's just how I saw it.
No, I think that it's a really sensible way of seeing it. It's normalising the situation, isn't it?
I did have leaks as well.
Okay. Tell me about?
Yeah, but it wasn't for a while. It wasn't for a while, and I'll tell you a funny story soon. And this is a lesson for us all.
Okay.
I'd obviously had a child, and as women know, well, some women are luckier than others. But my mother will tell me that she doesn't have the same body as me. Hers pinged back. My body didn't quite ping back after having a child, so I bought myself some suck me in pants. Those ones that you're supposed to look about 3 stone lighter. Well, the reason that you look 3 stone lighter is because it takes about 3 stone of sweat to get them on. And I bought myself some. And I thought, oh, this would be great because it'll smooth me out. No one will be able to see my bag. And also all those lumpy, bumpy bits, but all be gone. And I sat in a tea room with my mother, and I went, oh, I think I'm having a leak. And she went, oh my goodness me. And I was like, oh my oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Oh my goodness me, I've got to go. I've got to run. I've got to go. This is horrendous. There's going to be poo everywhere. And I remember going to the toilet in this, it was a garden centre tea room. The leak that I had was just so insignificant compared to what I dealt with IBD. I actually laughed. I was in the toilet, and literally, someone must have thought I was insane if they were next to me, because I started giggling, and I just thought, is that it? And I just cleaned it up. I put a new bag on, and I went back out and had some cake, and that was it. But yeah, I did have leaks eventually, and it just so happened that my stoma eventually started to hide. So once I'd got my bag on, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't know. So my stoma's lovely. It's as stomas go. I mean, they're not lovely looking things, but stomas go. Mine's quite nice, and it protrudes quite nicely. But when my bag is on and it's nice and warm, it snuggles back into my skin and it retracts.
And what about having, I imagine it was some months before you were thinking about going back to work, but when that time came, what about the confidence to do that?
It's funny because we haven't spoken about how I met Kieran, but after I got and there was a link to work with this. When I was poorly, I went on holiday stupidly, and I'd left my job by this point and realising that I needed to get better, and went on holiday with my best friend. And I actually met my now husband whilst my son was a baby, and he was sat on my lap on a plane, and he was crying and screaming. And someone made him laugh behind me. I promise I'll get back to work, I promise. And there is a point. And anyway, I turned in the seat to see who had made him laugh. I was furious. I thought, who the hell has won Parent of the Year award? I'm sat here and I've got chronic bowel condition here. I've got a 16-month-old baby bouncing off me, wanting to get down and fly the plane. And anyway, I looked behind me in the gap in the seats, and there was this rather handsome looking young man. So that's when we met, and obviously, he went through going through my stoma surgery with me, and then we got married. But it was 3 months after my stoma surgery that we got married, and I think that's a really good time reference to look at how long I was poorly for. I was ill for almost 5 years. I was ill for almost 5 years, and 3 months after my surgery, my second surgery to remove my bowel and my rectum and have a permanent bag, I was getting married. It snowed. I rode my pony in the snow. But before that, I was back at work. So even before that, so probably, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 weeks after surgery, I was back at work.
Wow. And what about, on the first day you're going back to work, you're enthusiastic and well motivated and excited, but there must be a little bit of, oh crikey, you're doing this now with a bag.
No, I didn't, and I don't know whether I'm just weird. I just didn't. It was invigorating. It was freedom, and it was power, and it was control, and it was me, and I could be who I wanted to be, and all I needed to do was go to the toilet at break time and go to the toilet at lunch.
So it's fair to say that you felt far more disabled by your IBD than you do by your stoma.
Absolutely. And you know what? I remember my next door neighbour coming around and speaking to me after I told her I got to have stoma surgery, and she said, "Oh my goodness me, I'm so sorry, Lauren." And I went, "Why?" And I was like, "I've been ill for 4 years, and you're telling me that you're sorry now?" Like, I've been so ill, and I've needed help, and I've needed people to recognise how ill I've been, and I've not needed people to question and say, "Well, she doesn't look ill, and well, she can do that." Well, I remember going for a meeting to apply for employment support allowance when I eventually decided that I couldn't go back to work. And she said, "Can you walk?" And I went, "Yeah, I can run bloody fast when I want to, when I need the toilet." But as far as feeling disabled was concerned, was I worried about where I was going to park? Yes. Would I have loved a blue badge? Yes, I would have, because I was incontinent. And that is so difficult. And not only that, was that I was so tired and so exhausted. My joints ached. I ached everywhere. I was in chronic pain. If that's not disabled and not debilitating every single day, then to me, I just think that is more disabling than me sat here now with a different plumbing system that I had before.
Yeah, I totally get that. So we've touched on relationships a bit, but I'm really interested, this is a long journey, like you said, 5 years of being poorly. And I'm interested in the relationships that were particularly important to you through the journey, you know, at different points, who was important. Can you talk about that a bit?
I think from the beginning, the one person that saw all of it was my mum, and you know, God bless her, she's amazing. But she wanted to fix me, and I'd get like a text saying, "Oh, I've tried this article on Google, and it says that if you drink coconut water, then you'll cure your Crohn's." And I was like, "Okay, Mum, great." And oh, if you do this diet, and if you do this, and if you have that, and I got so angry with her for keep trying to suggest things all the time. But in essence, I think that I forgot that she was suffering as much as me, but just in a different way. Because now, as a mother now, I can see that, you know, whenever my children have got a cold or a persistent cough, I just wish that I could have it off them, because I hate seeing them in pain. So for her, it must have been tenfold, seeing how poorly I was. And she didn't see, or did see, she did see underneath that invisibility cloak. She saw underneath it, and she saw the everyday. She saw the accident. She saw the backlash of that. She saw the pain. She used to say to me that I used to get a red blotchy mark on my face, and then seconds after I'd say, "I'm having a Crohn's moment," and that meant I need to go to the toilet like right now. She was great. She was really supportive. She used to come to all my appointments with me, but worried profusely about me, which was hard. When I found out I had to have stoma surgery, she was very much against it, in the fact that she was worried. She was very concerned. My dad, on the other hand, was just against it, because he was like, no daughter of mine is having a stoma. You know, there's other things that you can have. No, you don't need to have this, you know. And I did say to him once, which he doesn't remember, and I think it's possibly because I asked him the question. It was a leading question. It was wrong of me to do so. And I said to him, "Will it tarnish your view of your perfect daughter but if I have a stoma?" And he sort of went, "Well, yeah." And I think I led him into that trap, really. And I don't think he ever really meant it as that, but it stayed with me for a while. And I know he doesn't see me like that now. You know, he knows what my stoma looks like. He was there when I've had my bag. He's seen all the pictures that I've had, you know, with my stoma and my bag, and he's so proud. And he's just, you know, more than anything else, I think that both of them, particularly my mum and my dad, whenever I see them, they never really say, you know, my mum will say, "Oh, you know, I always forget that you've got a bag." You know, and it's like, she finds it a little bit like, "Oh, it's just so nice. I never really think about it." And it's, why should she? I just behave like anybody else now. The other important relationship, I suppose, is really important to mention, and I think a lot of people will relate to this, is the relationship that I have with my son. You know, I was a single mom for some time, and, you know, that was really hard. Being chronically ill and being a single mom was near bent impossible. But yeah, my relationship with him, in particular because of my exhaustion, was just, I just felt so guilty. And, you know, I remember he slept so well, but I wanted him to sleep more. Please sleep more, because I need to sleep. I need to sleep. I need to sleep. I need to sleep. And of course, babies don't sleep all the time. They don't. And toddlers really don't. But he'd cuddle me in bed, and we'd watch the iPad. He thought I was watching The Lion King. Thank goodness I knew all the lines to it already. And he'd say, "Wasn't that a great film?" I'd go, "Yeah, I've been asleep for 2 hours."
Slip in a quick Hakuna Matata.
Yeah. So I used to take naps and snuggle him in bed when he was a bit bigger, obviously not when he was a baby. But I just feel so guilty that I've missed time with him. And it was so different, obviously, with him compared to my second child, you know. And I just, that bothers me, and I can't take that back now. But, you know,
you weren't able to do anything differently.
No, I couldn't.
No. So I know you said about meeting Kieran on the aeroplane, and he knew you with your IBD and then supported you through your stoma surgery. So how did he support you at the time of your surgery?
Well, I mean, just going back to when we first met. I mean, I remember the first time that we had a drink together. We met on this plane, and then we ended up at the same hotel, and we had a drink on our last night. And I thought, I'm just going to tell him, you know, I'm a bit of a go-getter, and I just think, well, the worst that can happen is that he tells me to do one, and I never see him again. Oh well. I told him that I liked him. And he just stared at me and said nothing. I was mortified, but never mind. But the fear of knowing that I was going to tell him that I liked him obviously made my Crohn's colitis really bad. I was running to and from the toilet, and he didn't know at the time. He did know about my illness when we first met, but it was more a case of sort of like, Lauren's got a bit of a tummy problem. You know, it was sort of I've got a bit of a tummy problem, an illness. Ooh, I'm just going to get on medication for the 15th time tonight. And it wasn't. I was going to the toilet. He never questioned it. And I remember driving through not a nice part of Birmingham and needing the toilet. And being a country girl, I'm used to looking for a nice field gate to hop over. And suddenly I was presented with pubs, houses, clubs, streets, lots of people. Thankfully, I think luck was on my side, and I managed to clench every part of my body and hold it that time. But it made me realise that I needed to tell him. And what was incorporated with that was telling him about the fact that stoma surgery was looming for me. But how do you tell someone that you've got a chronic bowel condition? How do you then tell someone that you go to the toilet up to 40 times a day? You know, I mean, for a poo. I mean, it's just, you know, it's not nice. And then also, sometimes I don't make it to the toilet. And we were together one night, and I told him exactly what I've just said. And I also said, and also, I may have to have a stoma bag. And he looked at me and he pulled me in tighter into a hug, and he cuddled me and he said, "You're so brave. I think you're amazing. If it was me, I'd just lock myself in my bedroom." And I looked at him and I said, not one to miss a joke, and I said, "If you do ever get it, and I hope you don't, lock yourself in the bathroom, not the bedroom." So he was fine. And stoma surgery, it came quite quickly. We got engaged very quickly within our relationship, within 4 months. And not long after that, I was having stoma surgery, the first surgery that I've had 2 altogether. And I was doped up on morphine, and I woke up with Kieran sort of, you know, forehead to forehead with me. And I don't know, apparently I spoke to him for about 2 hours. I don't remember this. To me, it was more like 2 minutes. I don't know. And I just said to him, I want to look, in sort of like, you know, some deep demonic voice. I want to look. And he was like, "No, Lauren." I was like, "I want to look." And he's like, "You don't need to look, Lauren." I was like, "I do need to look." So I lifted up my dress, this sexy gown, you know, peeled it up towards me to see what I thought was going to be this nice opaque bag that I'd previously seen. And it wasn't. It was this big see-through leg banger of a bag. It was huge, and it was see-through, and there was just this massive big red thing inside, and this red thing was wriggling, Sue. It was wriggling. It was doing a dance, and I was like, oh, and it was huge. And just to put people's minds at rest, they do start off a little bit larger, and then they do shrink back. So no one told me that, but they do get a little bit smaller. It was just it was a bit big to begin with. It's a nice little one now, but anyway, it was horrifying. And I just looked over at my fiance, thinking, this is it. He's going to walk out, or he's going to be sick on me, either one. And I looked over at him, and he went, "Whoa, can I touch it?" And I was like, "What?" And I suddenly, no morphine, all gone. I could drive a car or a bus right now. I'm so sober from this morphine. And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he sort of give it a little bit of a prod over the bag, and he's like, "Wow, it's really squidgy." And hence my stoma's now called Squidgy. So he's been amazing. What can I say?
Yeah, he's been amazing. So you had 2 pregnancies. First one pre-stoma, second one post. I'm interested in whether you had any additional support needs with your second pregnancy since you had the stoma.
I had possibly more support, as much support when I was ill as well, and I think that was due to the fact that I was on medication, and there was a worry that the baby wouldn't grow, and that eventually that did happen, and the blood flow from the placenta wasn't efficient enough, and they were thinking about inducing me. My son being my son, I think he decided that he was going to bail out, and my waters broke not long after that anyway. So he took 3 days. He took his long sweet time on the rest of it. But my waters broke before I was due, and so that was hard. Trying to be in labour and worrying about needing the toilet was difficult. Pregnancy was difficult. Being ill, pregnancy with a stoma. My stoma, just like everything else, just got fat.
Okay.
So, I just had a fat stoma. I had fat legs, I had fat feet, I had fat hands, I had a fat head, I had a fat belly, and I had a fat stoma.
Okay.
So other than that, I mean, everything was just, they supported me, and I had growth scans. But in honesty, for me personally, because I felt so well, and this is different for everybody, just to reiterate that this was my personal experience of pregnancy with a stoma, I just felt like a normal person during that pregnancy.
Okay, that's brilliant. And what about the midwives? Were they well informed about stoma management and support?
During the pregnancy, it wasn't really an issue. It was there. It wasn't really in the way when we were having scans or anything like that. It was just, I was a bit cautious of making sure all the jelly had gone once I'd had a scan, so it didn't make my bag come off. But it was during my labour with Bella that, frustratingly, and I know a lot of women will scream with me at this, I got to 9.5 centimetres dilated after 2 days labour. I had a psychic reading in between Teddy and Bella's pregnancies, and my nan came through and said that, "Don't worry, my love, your second pregnancy will be shorter. Hooray!" And it was shorter by 1 whole day. Thanks, Nan. So I was pregnant. I was in labour for 2 days, and then I got to 9.5 centimetres dilated. I was ready. I was going to push. This baby was coming out. I'm now married. I've done it right this time. And the midwife said, "You're going to need a C-section because your daughter's stuck." And I was so cross. I think I've never been so angry in my life, and I shouted at her and I yelled at her, and I couldn't. She said, "Why are you so angry, Mrs. Henderson?" And I was just like, "I can't tell them. It's because I really want to ride my pony, and I'm going to have another 6 weeks off." But yeah, so I had a C-section, but it was just, I got to 9.5 centimetres. It was just so devastating. But what the problem was that I'd had an epidural by this point, and I said to the midwives, "Please, can you check my bag? Please, because it's going crazy because of all the drugs that I'd had." And I'd also got an infection, which they were quite concerned about. Bella had also got an infection, my daughter, inside the womb. So I'd been pumped up full of things, and my bag was really active. I mean, it was a glorious colour of green. It was crazy. I mean, entertaining colour. But I'd said to the midwife, "Please just check my bag because I can't feel it. I cannot feel it." And once they put that screen in front of you, obviously I've got no way to touch it. Unfortunately, I think that message went out the window from midwife to when they went to the surgery room. And when I got back to the ward, obviously I'd got a wound that had just been sewn up, and the poor nurse that wheeled me back to the ward, she lifted up my gown and my bag. I said, "Can you just check my bag?" And it exploded. I mean, and then people say, "Oh, my bag explodes." I've never known my bag explode, but it had exploded, and it was just like a luminous green liquid all over me, and it was all over the scar. And I just had this open surgery, and there was poo all over it. And I just felt, not only was I felt so embarrassed and so mortified, I felt disgusted that it was all over my scar, that I'd had to go through that I hadn't had that control. But I also felt horrified for the nurse, and I kept saying, "This is not what it's like. This is because they've not checked it. It's just because they've not emptied it," and I just needed them to do that. So I think that it just needs to be a little bit more awareness when people are going into surgery or anything like that, when they haven't got that control of being able to check it themselves.
Yeah, sure. In terms of advising other ostomates who go through a pregnancy with a stoma, have you got any particular advice?
People ask me a lot, and I get tagged in a lot of posts on Facebook about, has anyone had a baby with and had a stoma? And I find it a very delicate subject to talk about, because I think everybody is different. I think that has got to be at the forefront of people's mind when they're talking, discussing, thinking about pregnancy and stoma surgery, because everybody's led to stoma surgery from different paths. Now, for me, I had 2 surgeries, and I think that was a saviour for me because I have limited scar tissue. However, I was told before my second surgery that my chance of getting pregnant after that surgery was less likely, that my chances of fertility were lower. And I had the surgery knowing that. I fell pregnant 10 months after my surgery. Once my periods got back to normal, I fell pregnant. I had a very normal pregnancy. As I said, I was due to have a natural birth because I'd had keyhole surgery. Again, that may be different. Doctors, consultants may say that that's not the case for other patients. But for me, I was told that because I'd had keyhole surgery, I was allowed to have a natural birth, which didn't happen because my daughter got stuck. Not that I begrudge her for that. My advice would be that it's not the end to have a stoma, but I think that people need to make sure that they do some research before they have stoma surgery and look at their history, how many surgeries have they had. But certainly there are several people that I know, I could reel off quite quickly, that have had a baby after having stoma surgery.
Okay, but it's important to check that if there's going to be an impact on your fertility before you embark.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, and the one thing I thought, Sue, was that I was 25, and after being told that the likelihood of me having another child was unlikely, you know, it was perhaps not on the cards. I just met this guy, and he'd taken on someone else's child, and I rang him. I said to my surgeon, I need to step outside and I need to ring my fiance. And I rang him. I said, look, you know, the surgeon's just told me that I might not be able to have any more children. And Kieran's response was, well, we've got Teddy, and that's fine. And there may be other people out there that haven't even got a child. I was very lucky that I'd already got Teddy. But I think that, you know, for me, I thought, I'm 25. I could have a baby at 45, you know, and I thought I've got 20 years to worry about it and how I'm going to have a child. And being a parent comes in so many different shapes and forms. And, you know, I know from personal experience of family members that have gone through IVF, you know, several rounds of IVF, and there's people that I know that have adopted, and other people that are adopted. And I just think that there are so many ways that you can be a parent, and I think that the first and foremost that people must consider before being a parent in any shape or form is that you need to be healthy.
Yeah.
As best you can.
Yeah. So you've got 2 youngsters now. They're 5 and 10?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about how they make you feel. How involved are they with your world?
They're awesome, and I honestly thought that during the current situation they'd drive me at the wall, but they've been incredible, and they share my love of music. We've been playing duets. Me and my son have been playing duets on a Thursday for the clap, and we've also been my daughter's been playing her cello. She's just started to play that last year. We enjoy the horses together, and we go up the field together. My daughter's got a pony that she rides. It's the tiniest pony in the world. We've got tree houses up at the field and a stream, and we have a wonderful time up there. So we really do enjoy family time together. Yeah,
lovely. So how many horses do you have altogether?
Oh, it's a dangerous question. They're all my husband's, they're not mine really. I've got 3 horses. One I had when I was a girl, when I was 15. My wedding photos that I've got of her in the snow. She's wonderful. She's a Shire Cross. She's retired now, bless her. I've had her since I was 15. I'm now 32, so I've had her a long time. I split up with my first boyfriend. This was many years ago. You think I'm awful. And I bought a Shetland pony. So she's the first pony that I had. I bought her for £200. A bit of retail therapy after splitting up with my first boyfriend. I then got with my second boyfriend, who I talked about earlier on, that I was with for 2 years. And when we split up, I bought another horse. She was a bit more expensive, a few more zeros added. Well, 1 0 added on. And then, so I had those 3 then for many, 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 many years. It was just my old girl, this Spanish horse that I bought, and this miniature Shetland. And the miniature Shetland's really naughty. She's horrendously naughty. If you asked her who owned her, she would say no one. I am my own person. She also has chronic bowel problems as well. We share that together. And then my daughter was sharing this little pony, and the the woman who owned her said, I need to sell her, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh, okay, I best buy her then. So we ended up with another one. And then last year I had a really bad time at work and had a little bit of a cry and saw a little black colt, a Spanish little baby boy, and bought him. So no more babies and no more horses.
Well, actually, no more crises. That would be the best thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Have retail therapy. So I believe you were back riding quite quickly after your stoma surgery. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I should say this out loud, but yeah, I after my stoma surgery, my stoma nurse has said, now, Lauren, you mustn't ride. You must not ride. You must not ride. And I remember saying to Kieran, I really just want to ride. Please just let me ride. You know, my old girl, Rosie, she's such a good girl. She's like a big armchair. You know, I've just had my bum cut open and it's hurting like hell. It's been sewn up. It hurts to sit on the sofa. It hurts to stand. It will hurt sitting on my horse, but at least I'll be happy. And I said, I'll just go for a walk. No, Lauren, you're not going for a ride. I've rang up the stoma nurse. I've told them categorically you're not riding. Okay, I'm not riding. And one rainy day, I drove to where we kept the horse at the time, which was at somebody else's yard, and they had electric gates. Oh, and I still haven't forgiven him, Sue. I tell you, he took the fob off my keys. I got there and it's pouring down with rain. I thought, no one will suspect that I'm going for a ride. Ha, 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 ha. Went to open the electric gates and he'd taken the fob. But eventually I got my own way and I got back on after 3 weeks, which can I just very quickly say is not advisable.
Yeah, I think you should say that. What did the stoma care nurse say? Did you know?
She rang me and she said, I think you've possibly given in, haven't you? And I'm not one to lie. I'm not a very good liar. And I said, yes, I've ridden. I've only gone for a walk. Please don't go mad. And she said, please just come to the hospital and get a support belt and a vest. So I went and got a support belt and I hated it, this big, heavy, robust support belt for, you know, right after surgery, and I had a vest. But I literally, the horse that I've got, she's a big rocking armchair. She's lovely. As I say, she's retired now. And I just went for a plod on her. But as I said, I would not, if anyone's ever asked me since then, I would advise against it.
Okay, cool. So I'm just aware of the time. So now you would normally be working as a teacher. You've got 2 primary age children and a husband, 3 horses, 2 ponies and a dog. Have you got anything else going on?
To Kieran, my husband's got 3 horses, 2 ponies and a dog and 2 children, and he copes really well, may I add, Sue. The other thing that we do together, I drag Kieran along with me and 2 other people, is I run a charity called Purple Wings Charity, and we help people that have had stoma surgery for whatever reason to regain confidence and self-esteem. And
I bet that doesn't take up much time, does it?
Yeah, I'm not busy at all.
Well, they always say you want something doing, you ask a busy person.
Absolutely.
So tell me about it a bit more. How did it evolve?
It started as it still is in my living room, and it started with me saying, you know, I'm going to help somebody. And I remember somebody that I'd spoken to about having stoma surgery, and he was inspired by my story, and he eventually went and had his stoma surgery because he felt empowered by what he'd heard from me. And he said, oh, you know what, you really should start a charity or have a ball or something. I was like, yeah, okay. So I just like, okay, I'll start a charity and then we'll have a ball. And I did it and thought that I'd help a few people, and not realising actually how much work it would involve.
So who helps you with that then?
So Kieran, my husband, sort of deals with all the technical things. As you can see, I've struggled, before this video started. Sue will tell the masses that it was, I've got a phone propped up by lots of different things because my technical partner was refusing to help me today because he's busy. So he helps with all the technical things, setting up the website, things like that. And then we have 2 fabulous volunteers who we've had on board for quite some time now. And that's Samantha and Paige. Sam deals with things such as organising the ball with ticket sales and generally just keeping everything organised. She's very organised out of all of us. She's definitely the grammar police out of all of us. We'll post something, me or Paige, on Facebook, and then you'll see it's actually been posted by Sam. It hasn't. She's gone in and edited it and corrected something we've said. She's just fabulous, and she'll tell me as it is and puts me in my place, and I need that sometimes. She grounds me, and she grounds the charity, and she's been a driving consistency throughout the whole process. And she joined possibly about a year after. She was one of our first calendar girls in the first calendar. Okay. Paige joined after I gave her a grant, and I started to notice her more. Her social media presence was becoming apparent to me, and I thought, you know what, this girl's really good at this. And I approached and said, you know, how do you feel about doing some work for us? You're really good at this. You're really good at reaching people. I could do someone to do this. So Paige came on board, and she's just our social media queen. She just knows exactly when, how, what to say, to post, to reach people and really make that impact. And that's what you need. You need to be reaching people to be able to help them, you know. So she's just she's one to be reckoned with. She's a great person to have on board, and I'm really grateful that I have the team together, really.
Yeah, fabulous. So tell me about the aims of the charity. What is its focus? What's at its heart?
Confidence and self-esteem. And I think that our motto is recover, adapt and overcome. And from the very start, I realised that the recovery part doesn't always come first. And sometimes the recovery part doesn't come at all. Some people have stoma surgery and are still poorly after that, depending on what illness they have had or have got. Or may have complications. And one thing that we really focus on is that adapting and overcoming, to make sure that a bit of tough love, really. I'm a bit like a mum within the charity, and I say, okay, well, you've got a stoma, things aren't quite going to plan. What are you going to do? You can't stop living. And that's one thing we really focus on, is that make a list of all the things that you can do, and I bet you that list is a lot longer than the cannot list. A lot longer.
Yeah. So you gave grants for people to have experience as well through the charity. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, recently they were called wellbeing grants, and I thought, wow, that's actually a really good way of putting it, and I really like that. We've called them time for me grants, confidence boosting grants, but I think wellbeing grants is a really good way of wording it, because it is for wellbeing, and we really tailor it to each individual. So what we mean by grant is that I will speak to somebody. They are normally nominated by somebody else if they're lacking in confidence and they've had stoma surgery or about to have stoma surgery. And we speak to them about their passion. So, for instance, there was a girl that she was feeling quite low. Her mum nominated her, and she said she's a really passionate singer, but I've not heard her sing one note since she's had surgery. So we booked her a studio day to go and record some songs, a CD, an album, and she sent us some videos, and just things like that just really helped us to get people back to who they are, and that's really important. It's not just a case of, a lot of people think they're treats, and it is a treat. Some people go off for a night away with a loved one to spend some time, intimately with somebody, or it might be with a family member, it might be a shopping trip, and anything like that. Just to boost their confidence, but it's always really very much individually tailored to that person, to make sure that we are really hitting the heart of what's going to get them back to being who they are.
And it's not just for people with IBD, is that right?
No, it's for anybody that's got a stoma. So whether that be due to IBD, or whether that be due to cancer, or Hirschsprung's, or an accident. There's so many reasons why people can have a stoma, and I'm learning every day that there's just so many different reasons why people get them, and I'm always fascinated to hear people's stories. So yes, we help anybody with a stoma.
Okay, so what do you gain personally from running the charity? What does it give back to you?
A headache. No. No, it's it just feels wonderful when, it doesn't really hit me until, we do the calendar every year, and we do a male calendar each year, and then a male calendar every other year, and female calendar every other year. And it's not until you sit back and you're watching this day unfold that you've been a part of, or you've organised, depends on who in the team has organised it. And you sit back and you look and you think, wow, I started this, I planted this seed. Or when people come up to you and say, I've got to say, Lauren, if it wasn't for Purple Wings, if it wasn't for Lauren, if it wasn't for Paige, if it wasn't for Sam, and I wouldn't be standing here right now. And when that happens, you know, we're so focused on the next bit, the focus of the next bit, the next part, you know, that we forget the here and now of what we're actually doing. And it's nice to hear that we're actually helping. When people say that, it's really nice to hear that back. Yeah,
and you were recently recognised, I believe, nationally.
Yeah, so I was sat at home last week it was, and I had a letter from in the post, and my daughter brought it in, and Kieran was looking at me like, what the hell's this? And it was one of those envelopes that's, you know, do not bend, really hard cardboard. And it had in capitals, Prime Minister written across. And I thought, oh my goodness me, what have I done wrong? Like, what have I done?
That's exactly what I would think.
And I opened this letter, and you know, it was really personal. Like, he'd obviously, or whoever it was that had written the letter, I'd like to think it was him. He'd looked into what we do. You know, someone had gone to the trouble of nominating me and writing to the Prime Minister, and he congratulated me on starting the charity, and that was really what it was about. And it took me about 10 reads for it to actually sink in. We went for a dog walk, and I went, I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. I'm sure I don't deserve that. And it took me all day to really recognise that actually, you know what, you've worked hard. A letter from the Prime Minister's a nice thing to have, Lauren. It's okay. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it really is a fabulous measure of your success, because it's a very, very successful charity.
Thank you.
So I can see that we're coming to a close now, and I want to say a massive thanks, obviously, for giving up your madly busy schedule to talk to me today and enlighten me. But I have got a couple more questions just before we say goodbye, if that's all right.
Of course.
The first one is, if you could give your pre-op self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think that I'm going to get better, that it's okay, and that having a bag is nowhere near what I thought it was. Perhaps I should have spoken to my stoma nurses sooner. They were pivotal in me realising that it was just a bag. Can we hashtag that? Just a bag. It's just a bag. It's just a different plumbing system. If I could have just told myself that, if I could have told myself that 3 months after my surgery I was going to get married and have this wonderful fairy tale ending, then that's what I would have told myself, that it was going to be okay.
Yeah, brilliant. And the last one is, if I could give you 3 wishes, one's for you, one's for the charity, and one other, what would they be?
I'm looking for a new career at the moment. I'm currently supply teaching, and I've been for a job interview today and I didn't get it. So I'd love a new career. I'm not sure what direction I'm going in personally, but I would love to find something that I could be passionate about, that I could get paid for. That would be lovely. A wish for the charity. I would love the charity to grow so much and have the funds to be able to fulfill the needs that we would like to have counsellors on board, and to do so much more than what we're doing. And we have a business plan that's been sat there that still hasn't been realised, you know, those key elements of things that we said that we were going to achieve that require money. So it would be lovely for the charity to have a real nice injection of cash to be able to help more people and help them in a different variety of ways.
Yeah, sure. And what about your other one?
My last wish is my biggest wish, Sue. And my biggest wish is to have a house with land behind it so I could see my ponies every day in my garden.
You know, I just had a little tiny inkling that might be part of it. Well, I think you've just done such wonderful things. I mean, not just personally in your own, you know, inner strength and your motivation to make changes, but for the charity and to help so many other people. And you've certainly helped me to have an insight into what it's like to live with IBD and how you make IBD work. So I've got, you know, massive thank you.
Thank you for interviewing me, Sue. It's been lovely.
It has. It's been real fun. Bye-bye.
See ya.